Mondays live on X, the California Brief with Denise. I am your host today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to have a jam-packed discussion. As always, this will be streaming live on X every day, Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You can also watch the replay over on my Instagram account, which is denise.theinformedmama. Here on X, I am the Informed Mama 209, and you can go over to YouTube to watch the replay under the California Brief. Now, this is a brand new podcast. After 10 years of being involved heavily in California politics, I am bringing you all of the things that I have learned working in Sacramento. And let me tell you, it is dark, dark times in California with the leadership that we have here in the state. We have to vote differently if we want something different here in California and just as a nation, as Gavin Newsom is going to be running for president. That is something very hard to even think about. So today we're going to be talking on a number of different things, but first I have a very special guest. I'm very excited to have him on. I've been following the work that he was doing in Huntington Beach, and this is how we get things done in the state. We're going to have attorney Michael Gates. He is a former deputy assistant Attorney General of the U.S. Department of Justice, former city attorney of Huntington Beach, and he is currently running as a candidate for California Attorney General, trying to get Rob Bonta, who is in cahoots with Gavin Newsom, taking millions of our tax dollars. And I hope that you give him a listen and decide to support this really incredible person who showed the whole nation how important localism is. So let's bring him in right now. See.
How are you?
Hey, Michael, how are you? It's good to
Good,
see
good.
you. Thanks for joining us today.
And thank you for having me on.
I have been such a fan after seeing what you did at a local level, because as we all know, all politics is local. It's how you change the trajectory of a state. So I'm excited to have you. Let's get into all of the things of who you are and why you're running.
Yeah, thank you very much. So for me, it's pretty simple. You know, I've sort of been a fighter all my life. I've sort of made a career out of fighting for the people. And for those of you who, like you said, follow Huntington Beach politics and have been following Huntington Beach, you know what I'm talking about. I was the city attorney of Huntington Beach for 10 years. This was after I was in private practice, was an accomplished trial attorney, and then wanted to get into sort of the public work to be the city attorney of Huntington Beach so that I could serve the people. Because representing clients in the private sector was great, it was very rewarding, but I thought to myself, I could bring this skill set and this expertise to government. And so I did that. So I ran for office, got elected as the city attorney of Huntington Beach in 14, got reelected in 18, and then again in 22. And what I did the whole time there was really fight for the people. It's really that simple. Fight for the city, fight for everyday Huntington Beach residents. And that's why I want to run for Attorney General. That's why I'm running for Attorney General, and I want to become the Attorney General so that I can continue to fight for the folks, fight for everyday Californians. And, this is really not a particularly a partisan issue. I am a Republican, but I've been out on the campaign trail already, and I've been talking to Democrats and independents and Republicans alike. And we're all talking about the same issues, whether it's massive fraud that we're now hearing to the tune of $250 billion in California, whether it's the high crime rates and even the high homelessness rates, where Sacramento's just shrugging their shoulders and saying, well, there's really not a whole lot we can do about it. We keep throwing billions and billions and billions of your tax dollars at it, and it just keeps getting worse. No, there are ways to make it better. When I was the city attorney of Huntington Beach, I not only fought crime, I actually started the city's first ever community, or what's called the community prosecutor program. I actually started a brand new city level criminal prosecutor program in Huntington Beach. It's only the second of its kind in the entire county of Orange. And when we did that in 2017, it's been a successful program ever since. We reduced crime rates by double digits, believe it or not. And it's been going down ever since. Same thing with homelessness. We enforced the camping and loitering laws and public intoxication laws in Huntington Beach. And guess what happened? We reduced our homeless population by over 60% just since COVID. So there's things that can be done that I
Hmm.
have done firsthand, that I know on day one when I'm Attorney General, we can start to turn the state around. And so I'm not just running on, I guess fancy slogans and empty promises. I literally have done this for 10 years, and I plan to continue to do it as Attorney General. I fought the state on parental rights. When AB 1955 came out a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, that state law that basically mandates that teachers keep secrets from parents with regard to their children's gender identity or gender issues. I literally went to my city council and I said, okay, let's adopt an ordinance. Let's declare Huntington Beach a sort of a sanctuary city for parents, or a parents' rights city, which we did. We adopted that ordinance. And then I sued the state of California, and that lawsuit's ongoing. So whether it's parents' rights under some of these state laws that deprive parents' rights, which is a violation of their constitutional rights, or things like Title IX, where there's clear federal law that basically says that you have to, honor girls and boys. And in this case, it's keeping boys out of girl sports, young boys out of young men out of young women's sports. And across the state of California, both in education and sports, we want to keep boys out of girl sports so we can protect our young women, our young girls, our most vulnerable of society. All of these things can be done, and all of these things can be done on day one. And so this is just a few examples of some of the ways in which I not only believe in fighting for the people, but I've proven that I have been a fighter for the people, and I plan to go to Sacramento to do the same thing.
I am so glad to hear that you're talking to Democrats as well. I think a lot of people have been so caught up in the Democrat and Republican issue, but right now the things that impact Californians are bipartisan. Everyone is feeling the crime rate. Everyone is seeing, having to walk their kids to school and walk around homeless encampments. I know that we're feeling this here.
Mhm.
And Democrats and Republicans and all in between, we all can agree on common ground that kids should be protected, women should be protected, families should have some sort of representation at a state level, and that's not happening right now. I know there's a huge scandal with Rob Bonta, our current Attorney General right now, but one of the things that really just should it infuriate all of Californians is that in this time where the economy is just awful for working class families, it doesn't matter if we're the fourth largest economy in the world, we're not feeling that as working class families. I
Right.
don't appreciate our current attorney general taking out and colluding with Gavin Newsom to take out $50 million of taxpayer money to sue the Trump administration and to finance legal services for those seeking deportation. We need to focus here on California. What is happening to the families here? Many families are suffering. The crime rate is outrageous. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
Here in my city, we had a shooting of 15 people got shot at in one day.
Yeah.
And yet Gavin and everyone else goes on under his administration go on and talk about how safe California is. That is
Right.
not what California families are feeling.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's very, very disturbing that I call them the Sacramento elites. I know they're sort of far left sort of political activists who are in charge of our state right now, but they're really the Sacramento elite. They're so out of touch with everyday Californians. The gap between our leadership and everyday Californians is massive. Our,
Hmm.
our our leadership is completely tone deaf, and Rob Bonta, who's our attorney general, he was considering running for governor just a few weeks ago and decided not to. He decided to stay with the attorney general's office and run for reelection. One of the reasons he didn't jump in the governor's race is because his polling numbers were not high enough to support his candidacy.
Hmm.
So that's how far out of touch our leadership is, that they don't even have the support of everyday Californians. And when Bonta's out there touting, for instance, that he's launched 54 lawsuits against the Trump administration, and look, regardless of the merits of those challenges, right? Regardless of the merits of those challenges, that is so tone deaf to
Hmm.
Californians, because when we are hearing about lowest gas prices in the nation in the past 20 years, and you and I drive down the street and we see at our local gas station the little meter there that says that gas is still over $5 a gallon. You and I, when we're hearing that food prices are down across the nation and gas prices are down, you and I have to believe it, because we're not seeing it and we don't know it from
Yep.
our own experience, right? Why is that? That's because the regulations in California and the high tax rates, all of these things are putting massive, massive burdens on Californians, unlike other citizens across the nation and other states that are enjoying lower food prices, lower gas prices. And so our leadership is just completely out of touch and tone deaf. And I think, frankly, they don't care. They believe that we have to get used to, if we're going to be Californians, we have to get used to living with a certain amount of crime. We have to get used to living with certain gas prices. We have to get used to living with a certain tax rate. We have to get used to living with a certain amount of homelessness. We have to get used to this, like this endless list of things that they think we should suck up and absorb. And everyday Californians, whether they're Democrat, Independents, or Republicans alike, are absolutely frustrated. And let me tell you something, Denise. I launched my campaign about a week and a half ago. I have raised well over $200,000 just in that period of time. And we have almost 1,000 individual donors just in that period of time. And those donors who are clicking on my website and donating online and just donating $25 or $50 or $100, they're coming in droves. I mean, there's a lot of people supporting this campaign. Why? Because they know I'm a fighter and I'm going to go to Sacramento and clean house. And they know I can do it because I have a record of doing it already. And B, because they're absolutely fed up that our leadership currently is tone deaf, that they're just ignoring us. And so while Bonta is suing the Trump administration and suing Catholic hospitals and suing Christian charities and suing parents and school boards, we're over here, you and I are dealing with a high cost of living while we have crime, unacceptable levels of crime in the street and homelessness in the street. And so we just live on two different planets. And so I want to take California back and give it to the folks. I literally want to go to Sacramento and serve this great state, serve the citizens of everyday Californians. I want to serve them. I can, on day one, lower crime rates by taking the enforcement of the criminal laws seriously on the one hand, but also enforcing Prop 36 on the other hand. We can also lower homelessness overnight by enforcing our camping and loitering laws. And you've heard politicians say that we can't, our hands are tied. No, we did. I did so for years in Huntington Beach, and we lowered the homeless population. These are things that we can do overnight. Enforcing Title IX, making sure that all of our education systems across the state of California and sports systems across the state of California are compliant with Title IX, that can be done overnight. I would like to, we have 482 cities in the state of California. I would like to start an initiative on day one where I work with every city in the state of California so that they too can have their own city level criminal prosecutor. Imagine if every city had its own city level criminal prosecutor working with their local DAs, just like Huntington Beach did. We reduced crime by double digits in Huntington Beach. Every city can also reduce their crime rates by double digits. And we can do this on day one. I know how to make it happen, and I will.
I love that, especially, like we said earlier, localism is key. So if you could do that at a local level with the resources that you have, I'm really excited to see what you could bring to Sacramento. I know Title IX is such an important issue. Our children should be protected and families should be protected. But one of my things, Tara and I have been working on something for years. We've been working alongside an organization, Woman to Woman, and they advocate for the incarcerated women who are now having to be collateral damage for SB 132, the Scott Wiener law that allows men to identify as women and go into the women's facility. Now, this law was written so poorly because there's no guardrails. There's nothing in there to say like they have to live a certain way for a certain time. It's just a loophole. And so predators are going to predator in prison and they're
Right.
going to find out what those loopholes are. We have waited years to have this addressed.
Yeah.
And last year we tried to fix it with SB 311 and that bill was killed. But I'm hoping that we can get some kind of justice for what's happening to the civil rights violations and human rights violations happening to the incarcerated women right now in California.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And these are the kinds of things that we can tackle on day one. We can issue Attorney General opinions, formal Attorney General opinions, but also guidance to prisons and other institutions about what it means to comply with Title IX and any other federal law. right?
Mhm.
There are other federal laws on the books that govern what happens in jails and prisons and things like this. So we are able to do that on day one. And if there are state laws that stand in the way of properly implementing federal law, then I will be able to work with the governor on ways to, and I'm assuming that we'll have a new, a Republican, I'm hoping that we have a Republican candidate as governor, work with them on ways to set aside or through executive order or otherwise, some of these state laws that violate federal laws, because there are some issues that where federal law clearly preempts state law. And
Mhm.
notwithstanding that well-known principle about federal preemption, California state has passed laws anyway that violate federal law, and so, or conflict with federal law. So we're going to tackle that on day one as well. And so,
Love.
and a lot of this to you and I it's just common sense, right? Like
Right? Yeah.
we're restoring sanity to our society. But one of the things that, is particularly close to my heart is protecting, I've got 5 kids, 2 daughters, I've got grandchildren, I've got, many, many sisters. I grew up in a household with a lot of sisters, a lot of women, is protecting the most vulnerable in our society, whether, like you said, they're in prison, in jails, but they're out on the streets, they're in schools, wherever they are, we need to protect our most vulnerable in society. And the Sacramento elites have a pattern of making sure that our most vulnerable are under attack, or they are oppressed, or they are put at risk. Need to look no further than some of our neighborhoods in some of the inner cities, where the population, there's more of a need, in that population in neighborhoods, and they're the most subject to crime,
Mhm.
because our enforcement on criminal law has been so laxed that our most vulnerable neighborhoods are subject to the most crime. It's not the other neighborhoods that have, security gates and they're more affluent. Those are not experiencing quite as much crime. But you look at some of the neighborhoods and the communities that are the most vulnerable, that are more needy, they're the ones that are being subject to the most crime. They're the
Yep.
most vulnerable of our society, or among the most vulnerable society. They should be protected, and they're not.
Agree. Well, I hope whoever's listening here really goes and looks at your website. We're going to put the website up right now. But ran for state assembly. I know how important it is to have donations directly to the campaign. And if you're interested, help volunteer. Everything matters because there is a huge machine in California that wants to keep Californians deeply, deeply oppressed because we are. So I hope and wish the best for you. You have my total support. I've been watching you forever. Please go and look at his website, gate4ag.com.
It's
Donate.
and yeah, it's Gates for HD, so we're missing an S there.
Oh, let me get
Gates,
this here.
that's okay. Gates, the number 4 ag.com. That's Gates, the number 4 ag.com. I appreciate the support. And a couple things that we didn't get to today that maybe we can get to another time is the voter ID law. I was the architect of
Yes.
the Huntington Beaches voter ID law. So
Oh, yes.
I've done election and integrity, elections integrity enforcement. I had, like I said, the architect of the voter ID law. I defended that law in court when it was attacked by Newsom and Bonta. I also worked for the Department of Justice, where we enforced elections laws, federal elections laws across the country, including suing the state of California and Orange County for their elections laws violations. So there's elections laws, and I even fought Sacramento on some of the high density housing mandates. You were talking about local control. That's the ultimate local control
Mhm.
for neighborhoods and city councils to decide for themselves how the land use is going to occur in their city,
Yeah.
meaning how is the land going to be used? Is it going to be developed into high density, or is it going to be left for parks? Is it going to be left as beaches? Is it going to be left as single family residence? These are the types of key, and they're critical local control issues. And many cities right now are under attack from Sacramento with these high density housing mandates. And these cities, even blue cities, even Los Angeles and other cities, they don't want these high density developments. They don't want these high density mandates. So all of these things I've done in my career as city attorney, and I've been in court fighting against. And I just want the people who are watching today, like you said, please understand this is an important election. And if we get everybody out in droves, if we get a groundswell of support for common sense, for local control, for election integrity, protecting our young girls. All of these issues, lowering crime, lowering homelessness, all of these issues, Republicans, Democrats, and independents all agree on. Let's
Hmm.
tackle these issues together. Let's unify and tackle these issues together. And if you can, go to my website, gates4ag.com. That's GATES, the number 4.com, and check me out. I would love to have you on board as part of the team with the campaign. And if you could make a small donation of $25 or $50 or $100, that would be great. We're getting a lot of those donations. And if you could join us, join the campaign that way by making a small contribution, that would be greatly appreciated.
I love that. So again, is gates4ag.com. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on, and good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Wow, I am excited for the new candidates that are coming to California because we can't do this anymore. We can't. It doesn't matter if we're labeled the fourth largest economy or the fifth largest economy. None of that matters when people are trying to figure out how they're going to put gas in the car or food on the table, how they're going to get their kids to school, how they're going to get to work, and how they're going to make dinner. These things should not be an issue when you are the fourth largest economy in the world. It feels like Gavin has created this economy for his millionaire and billionaire friends, always protecting the people who are scamming California taxpayers, which we're going to get into right now. So, again, Attorney Michael Gates, he is running for California State Attorney General. Please go and check his website, gates4ag.com. So let's get into some of the stories that we have today. I got a lot of stuff, man. We're going to get into it, okay? Because there's a lot of things happening. I feel like after Nick Shirley's whole thing, that it just like opened a can of worms here in California, and so people are now they're having a good time unraveling what's been going on. Leave a comment here. Let me know where you're from. See if you have any questions for me. I'd love to answer it. But let's get into this. So, the scam that is healthcare in California, I don't even know how to put it into words. All I can say is that I have decided to really take back control of my healthcare after my family had to deal with some emergencies because dealing with emergency rooms and physicians, pediatricians have really gotten muddy because of so many different things. But one of those things being money, money, money. But let's talk about this scam that Attorney General Bill Essayli has unraveled, the scam of home health care. According to the Attorney General, or according to Bill Essayli, home health care has increased seven folds in LA County alone. And it is alleged that the scam has cost taxpayers $3.5 billion. Again, alone in LA County. A sevenfold increase, that many people are dying in LA. This is just and again, like this is under the direction of Gavin Newsom. I know he went on X and they did this whole thing. How dare you? How dare you insinuate that I'm part of this scam, that I defraud the state? Look, bro, you're the governor of California, and we have hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud that is being uncovered. And now we have what we're seeing in Minnesota is the home health care scam. I'm just I just wish that, the amount of money that gets taken out of my husband's check, I wish it could go towards, legit things like better lunches for kids or different programs for kids to get off the streets and have something that they can develop skills with, like more trade school opportunities. So many things that we can do in this state with the amount of money that we spend is incredible. But instead of investing into our state, into our kids. I am a all the way a supporter of children. Um, for me, adults, like I have only so much empathy after you get a certain age because life is hard. You know what I mean? Like life is hard. My life is hard. You either get with it or you don't, right? And so my thing is kids. We have one opportunity to get children into a place where they have skills where they can develop these skills to have a life that is better than what their mothers and fathers had. No, we don't do that. You want to know what? You want to know what California spends their money on? Now, this came out, this was according to Mayor Daniel Lori, the mayor of San Francisco. Lori has reported that there is a program that is now phasing out, but it was a COVID era program called MAP. This is Manage Alcohol Program. It was created during COVID. Do you want to know? I'm going to read this. I get it all right. California has spent $5 million on this program. This program covered 55 clients. It paid out $454,000 per client to give these people, they're homeless alcoholics, to give them alcohol. This the city of San Francisco, let me say that again. The city of San Francisco used taxpayer money, $5 million during COVID era to pay for alcohol for homeless alcoholics. 55 clients, $455,000. What kind of booze are you drinking, bro? Like that is insane. Get yourself a buzz ball for $1.50. This is crazy. This is what California leadership does, right? Meanwhile, there was a video that's going viral right now. It was it was a man who said he cannot get access to his kid's medical records because his kid is 12 years old. He was shook, right? And as someone who has worked in politics for 10 years, okay, I have seen these types of laws and policies continue to get passed and implemented. But in the state of California, 12-year-olds can decide for themselves. They basically have emancipation. And I'm going to tell you how. Somebody tried to argue with me that as emancipated, you have to go through the courts and you have to prove that you can take care of yourself. That's not what the state of California is doing right here with these laws. So in California, a child can decide for themselves medical health care, mental health care. Now, mental health care falls under like all the things that are happening right now with like transitioning and all that stuff. Children can make some of those decisions. They can also make reproductive health decisions on their own without parental knowledge or notification. Now, even if you pay for their insurance, doesn't matter. The insurance companies will not tell you what the services were for, but they surely will bill you. And in California, we have medical buses. Now, this has happened a few times. I've heard from families who were asking me about attorneys so they could sue, but children 12 and up, there's been children who go to public school who were looking for what they're labeling reproductive health care of abortions, things like that. They don't need parents' permission here in the state. Okay. If you want to see your kids' medical information, your 12-year-old has to sign a waiver that will give you access to those medical records. And which is going to take me to the new law. It was a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2023, AB 665. And I spoke about this the other day, but I'm going to say it again because it's important that people know it. And I would say mostly every person I've talked to, unless they were actually in the political world, they're not aware of AB 665. This is where the state of California has allowed for 12-year-olds to basically be emancipated without going through the process of seeing, can you take care of yourself? Now, if you go to the website Legiscan, you can pull this up. It's a two-part bill. This is how they get the sneakiness of how they get it, because if you like oppose it, and I'm going to get to what it was, you're such a bad person. So AB 665 did two things. The first thing it did was it gave insurance equity. So if you had private pay insurance, if you have Medi-Cal, you still get access to the same services that you need. It's not based on medical insurance quality. It's just you get it in general. Now, all of us agree that that's okay, right? We don't want little Susie to miss out on a medical procedure that's very much needed just because she was on Medi-Cal, right? So That's fine. It was really hard to debate this bill because of that piece. But if you dig a little bit deeper inside of some of the paragraphs, there's a piece there that changes the entire um, code for family law. Now, originally, there needed to be allegations of abuse, proof of abuse, and due process. So you go to court, you talk to a judge if there was allegations that there was a parent abusing a kid. So a kid goes to school, say, I'm getting hurt at home, I need help. That school would then call CPS, DCSF, and have that child relocated somewhere safe temporarily until the family can be notified and there can be all the social workers, all these things. What AB 665 did is it took away the little piece that said there needed to be proof of abuse. Now a child can go to school and they can tell their counselor, they can tell their teacher, any school employee, and they can say, I don't feel safe at home, my family doesn't support me, blah blah blah. No abuse allegations. That school can then facilitate the child's move into a residential shelter cared for by the state, and that child will have to give the thumbs up if they want their parents notified. Could you imagine sending your kid to school who's dealing with all the things that kids deal with, only to have them not come home, and then later you find out they're at a shelter under the care of the state. You didn't do anything wrong, but maybe you didn't support them in whatever it is, any sports or any of the friends that they liked or them wanting to go out. Now, AB 665 gives these kids the ability to leave, even if they can't take care of themselves. The state will then step in to take care of them. This is California, you guys, and not just education being weaponized here, because education is weaponized in California. Parents do not have really any say over the curriculum or books or what's being introduced to their kids. Okay, doesn't happen. Um, but we also have healthcare that is weaponized. It's used if you politically align with like if you're a Republican, we actually there's a picture that went viral, and it's all over the place, and it was a anesthesiologist, Eric Martindale. He went viral for saying, I will not perform anesthesia on MAGA. It's my right, it's my ethical oath, and I stand by it. I'm just wondering, is this like part of the healthcare questionnaire of what political affiliation you have? We saw this type of discrimination we saw, um, well, I've seen, and parents who maybe opt out of the vaccine program have seen these doctors, pediatricians, they all discriminate, almost all. I mean, I have a pretty good doctor for just in case, but I'd say 90% of the people that I know that choose not to participate in the program, they get dropped from their office. I have been threatened by a pediatrician to have CPS called on me. The whole system is so weaponized against parents. I don't even know what year it was that things started moving in such a different direction where it was like parents are public enemy number one. Parents can't be trusted with their kids. Kids should, have another safe adult to go to. What are you talking about? Kids have they're safe adult. They have parents, and if they don't, then there's a process of how to make sure that these kids are taken care of. Unfortunately, the system that is called CPS needs to be completely revamped. I think the minute we have, monetarily incentivized having children removed from homes was a moment that things got really, really muddy. I mean, Bill Clinton, I forgot what the act was. I'll talk about it tomorrow, but Bill Clinton allows for CPS to take children and they get a bonus if they take them from the home. That's absolutely insane. And now, let's talk about insane. Today, the CEO of Moderna says he is deeply disappointed regarding the change in recommendation for kids that they will no longer be investing in phase 3 trials. They're just really, I feel the nervousness. I smell the nervousness in this reform of the childhood vaccine schedule and the recommendations people who profit off of vaccines are very upset that this is happening, which should make every parent ecstatic, except they've done such a great job to brainwash people into thinking that the pharmaceutical industry, the same industry that was responsible for the opioid epidemic, hello, Purdue Pharma, um, that like, it's so weird that people think these vaccine manufacturers have the best, like, they want the best for their children. It's odd. So let's go over what some of the recommendations were. So as like I just said, they're mad about this, right? This is how the 1986 Act got passed. It was because the vaccine manufacturers came and said, we have been sued too much. We're going to go bankrupt. Too many lawsuits. We're no longer going to make the vaccines here because we can't be sued. So instead of forcing them to create a better product, instead of forcing them to acknowledge maybe this really isn't, like, safe and effective, maybe all these things could be changed. No, instead, Ronald Reagan gave them complete immunity from lawsuits. Why is this the only product that is on the market that you can't sue for? I would love to know, because I still have never heard from anybody as to why this should be. So the AAP, so the American Academy of Pediatrics, has put out their recommendation of what they want children to have. I'm going to tell you that one, and I'm going to tell you now what our current HHS director is saying, is recommending, along with ACIP, which is the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. All right, so the recommendations from the AAP include 5 DTaps, 1 DTaP, 1 Tdap, 4 polio, 2 MMR, 2 varicellas, 3 Hep Bs, 4 HIB, B like boy, 2 HPV, 1 RSV, 2 meningococcal, 3 rotaviruses, 2 Hep A, 18 influenzas, and 2 COVID shots, for a total of 55 to 72 shots that the American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending for American children. Now, as you know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has decided to reform the childhood vaccine schedule to kind of reflect Denmark's. Now, this is in no way, I am not endorsing this schedule. I do not believe in the program. Okay, I do not. I will never, ever, ever recommend any of them. Okay, I have opted out of the program. It is not in my family. I do not want to say this and have somebody think I am telling you this is okay. I wish none of this happened, but to be very realistic, that is not going to ever happen. So I am, though, grateful that this is finally being addressed. Anyways, the new recommendations for the childhood vaccine schedule include 5 DTaps, 1 Tdap, 4 polio, 2 MMR, 2 varicella, 4 HIB like boy, 1 HPV, and 4 pneumococcal. That's it. Those are the only things that they're going to be recommending. Just because they're not recommending all of the other 72 does not mean that you can't get them. This is where mainstream media is so complicit in their mis and disinformation that they have created this fear for parents that, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get my child all these things. You can get whatever you want. Okay, nobody is taking these off the market. The recommendations have changed, but you can still ask your doctor and talk to your doctor about it. Unfortunately, for Californians, we are not going to feel any of these changes. None of the recommendations that that ACID, which advisory panel, whatever, I just said it earlier, the vaccine panel, none of those recommendations are going to be adopted by California because of Gavin Newsom has passed, and I say Gavin Newsom's passed because this was his bill. He wanted it. AB 144. Now, we've talked about this before, and again, I'm going to continue to talk about it because there's going to be people who don't know. So if you heard this before, let's talk about it again because it's very important. AB 144 was passed last year, last legislative session, and it was in a gut and amend budget bill. the worst way that we can get a law passed. It's basically just the way that the Democrats can cheat. And I say Democrats because it's the supermajority of Democrats. These are the people that are putting in these laws. AB 144 created California's own advisory board on immunization practices. It has not only brought a former high-ranking official from CDC over to California and hired them, but it's also brought the American Academy of Pediatrics to California to create this new board. This board is going to go after vaccine skeptics, but it's also going to work with the California Department of Public Health because AB 144, it just reiterated a previous law. So it's SB 277 in 2015. But it says the CDPH, California Department of Public Health, can add shots to the schedule and bypass the legislative process. Now, we're not going to feel all of these different recommendations. So if you have a kid in public, private school, or daycare, none of this matters because California has rejected all recommendations and they're going to keep on rejecting it. We just saw that Gavin Newsom decided to enter California into the World Health Organization rapid response. Now, some people say you can't put California in to the WHO because it's not a nation. Well, Gavin Newsom has not just treated California as a nation, he's actually called California a nation. And he is challenging how this is going to be done. He's done that with sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities aren't a real thing, but he has created this energy that it is a real thing and people have acknowledged it. So, can he do it? Can he put California in the World Health Organization? I mean, no. However, it has never stopped Gavin and his Democrat administration from doing things that are unconstitutional and challenging the laws. So, not only do we have our own vaccine panel where they're going to be rejecting all these things, they're actually going to probably put things on the schedule and put things on the schedule in a way that blocks you out of the conversation. Now, in California, there's only two ways that a shot can get put onto the childhood schedule to where it's going to be a mandate. One is through the legislative process. Your legislator creates a bill, it gets through committees, it gets through voting, it becomes law. If this happens, you as a constituent, you have the ability to go talk to them, to go try to sway their vote. And it can be done. We did it. SB 866, we beat Senator Scott Wiener. He wanted to pass a law that would allow 12-year-olds to get vaccinated without parental consent, knowledge, and notification. His whole thing was like, I want kids to get the monkeypox vaccine if they need it. What are you talking about? Like, this is where we're at. So, not only, so if you have these conversations with legislators, you're able to defeat something if we have enough pressure. But through the experience that I've had and that Tara's had, legislators do not like talking about vaccines. They get very uncomfortable. It's very polarizing, very controversial. They would choose not to do it. And so, what we're kind of seeing is that what we may expect is California is going to change the way that CDPH adds a shot to the schedule. So, there's, like I said, there's only two ways through the legislative process, but because of AB 144 and SB 277, CDPH can add a shot to the schedule. And what I think could be the one would probably be HPV or flu. They want the COVID shot. They wanted that for since the beginning. But I don't think people they have the support. I think people are really like, you're tripping if you think I'm going to give that to my kid. So we think it's either the HPV or the flu, and there would be no or if I'm sorry, if CDPH adds that, then there is an opt-out. We have a personal belief exemption. This does not impact the current shots we have. We have no functional exemptions for the current schedule that we have in California. But if CDPH adds something like the flu, like HPV, then yes, you will have a personal belief exemption. However, we feel because how Newsom and his administration are kind of sticking their heels in the dirt here, we feel this session we may see something that will do away with the personal belief exemption, requiring parents who have children in public and private school to get give their children the HPV shot or all the flu shot recommendations. So we don't know what's going to happen yet. Um, we know that Gavin is going to push um, a gut and amend budget through a budget bill, get them under budget bill, most likely a budget bill that's going to address non-classroom based charter schools to get homeschool kids into the public school system, and then something of removal of the personal belief exemptions. So that way every kid has to get it. No ifs, ands, or buts, no exemptions, no skipping, no nothing. So that's what I foresee. So I hope if that happens, that you're engaged. I mean, I'm going to be talking about this a lot. Me and Tara are going to have some kind of like podcasting together where we're going to talk about what's going on in the legislative process at the California Capitol, and what you can do at a local level to make sure that your legislator knows and understands how you feel about the removal of a personal belief exemption. And, honestly, if you have a kid in non-classroom based charter schools or in charter schools, now is the time to start talking to your legislator about AB 84 and the pressure from the California Teachers Association trying to pull funding from these charter schools, because it's going to come as a budget bill. So if your legislator doesn't hear from you, they're going to get a budget bill up there, no conversation, no information. They're just going to have to sign off on it down party line. So it's really important that you start getting involved. And then next, or in April 7th, I will be having an in-person forum here in Stockton, California. That is going to be the Informed Families Forum. And we're going to talk about the new laws that impact children, families, and freedom here in California. We're also going to talk about the new vaccine schedule, what you can expect with those kinds of recommendations coming down the pipeline. And you're going to leave with a whole lot of information regarding homeschooling, the schedule, um, current laws. This is basically a pick my brain event. Again, April 7th at 6 o'clock p.m. You can go to my website, theinformedmama.org, and I'm going to have some information there a little bit later. Tickets will be going on sale. This is the chance to kind of get all the information that you've been wanting to get. You can also go to my website if you would like a consultation with for political strategy, homeschooling, things like that. You can book an appointment with me. So I am just, like, again, appalled by the news that we have every single day here in the state. This is why I created the California Brief, to talk about the current issues that are happening in our state and what you can do as a family to address your elected representatives so they can at least bring your voice to Sacramento. Also, Tara and I are creating a huge project. It's a very big project, and it's going to change the way that we advocate for families here in the state. So you can go to freedom-angels.org and you can get on the mailing list. We'll be sending out letters this week to talk about this new project and how you can be a part of this amazing new piece that is very much needed, as California Capital is having tons of construction where we're able to talk to legislators on the streets, in the restaurants. We're able to catch them walking. All of that is going to change this year. Gavin Newsom has destroyed the east side of the Capitol, and at $1.1 billion is rebuilding it to include um, private secret pathways of legislators so they can ignore us on the street. So we got a big project coming up, and we really hope that you are able to be a part of it. So thank you so much for joining us today. You can catch the replay on Instagram under Denise.theinformedmama. You can also catch it on YouTube under the California Brief. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time to talk about all the things. And then on Wednesday, I'm very excited. We are going to have Dr. Brian Hooker joining the conversation. He is incredible, the author of Vax versus Unvaxxed, and we're going to be talking about what's going on in Health and Human Services and how this is impacting your children in the state of California and on a national scale. So I very much appreciate, thank you, Ty 4114. I appreciate you tuning in and sharing this live. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about all things California and what's going on across the nation on the California Brief with Denise. Have a great day, guys. Bye.